My name is Zemira Ozarowski. I'm the director of the women's division at OUisrael. And Chodesh Tov. I'll start by apologizing for my voice. I'm actually not feeling very well. My husband's been giving over this little vort about the Parsha. And he says, now it's the series of Parshas. He says that, how did Yosef get into the situation where he was actually able to be saved and brought to Paro and become the second in command? How did it all start? Because he was sitting in jail. And what did he do? Before he interpreted the dream, how did he get to the point of interpreting the dream? He noticed something. He noticed what? He noticed that the baker and the butler were not looking very good. Now think about it. All of these guys are sitting in jail. How do you think any of them are feeling? Awful, right? They probably all don't look very happy. And yet he noticed that there was something different about those two men, that there was something that they felt even worse than everybody else. Yosef himself wasn't feeling very good, and yet he went over to them and said, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And that's how the whole trajectory began. So he's been saying this to our Torah the past few weeks in different ways, and I have not been feeling very well. And every time I feel like it's like a musar of like, okay, you're not feeling well, but you should try to still be nice to other people. So I'm going to try. But if I don't, then you'll know why. Okay, so every month we get together and we talk about the themes of the upcoming month. And for some months it's very obvious what we're going to talk about. There's Hanukkah, Pesach. Some months are full of holidays and there's a lot to talk about. And some are a little bit more vague and not clear what to talk about. But for the last bunch of years, for Tevet, we've been talking about tefillah. What's the connection between Tevet and tefillah? Now, if you've been listening well for the past bunch of years, you've heard my introduction. But I think the first thing is that the first time that we did it, I probably myself was feeling like it was time to talk about tefillah, because at the beginning of the year, when you're in Elul and Tishrei, you're working on your tefillah, right? And you're really getting it all in there, and you're getting very good at davening. And then things start to slide. A few months later, it's time for Tevet, and it's like, okay, now's the time for a dosage of let's work on our tefillah. It's also, when you think about Tevet, you think about the Chorban Beit HaMikdash, Asar Tevet, which is also a makom of tefillah. But the other connection that I've been bringing forward is there's a very famous machloket between the Rambam and the Ramban about what is the obligation of tefillah. Okay? And the Rambam says in Sefer HaMitzvot, he says there's a mitzvah, he's counting the mitzvot, he gets to mitzvah say number 5, and he says there's a mitzvah, Hu shetzivanu la'avdo, Hashem commanded us to serve him. And he said, yes, the mitzvah of V'avarta et Hashem Elokechem can be interpreted in many different ways. There's a lot of ways of serving Hashem. But he says, even so, okay, he said it's a tzivoy kolel, it includes a lot of things, but he says, yesh bo yichud acher shehu tzivoy letfilah. Found within this obligation to la'avod et Hashem is to daven, right? La'avdo zo tefillah. Serving Hashem is through tefillah. So according to the Rambam, there's a mitzvah from the Torah, from the words V'avarta et Hashem Elokechem, to what? To daven. Every single day we have a mitzvah midoraita to daven. How much, what are the details? No. But is there a mitzvah to daven once a day? Midoraita, according to the Rambam, yes. The Ramban comes along. The Ramban, on his notes on the Sefer HaMitzvot of the Rambam, argues with him. And he says, wait a minute. Very nice that you found a little cute place to hang it on, and a smachta, v'avarta et Hashem Elokechem, in the Torah, but that doesn't make it doraita. There's an idea that you should serve Hashem, and maybe one way to do that is to pray. But there's no mitzvah d'oraita to daven. Does he think there's a mitzvah every day to daven? Yes, but mid'Rabbanan. Okay, according to the rabbis came and they said it's a good idea. We should really daven every day. Mid'Rabbanan, we have to daven every day. But according to the Ramban, mid'oraita, there's no obligation to daven. Okay, well, we'll get to why I'm saying this in a second. Okay, now. He says, though, there's a certain circumstance where there is a mitzvah midoraita to daven, very specific circumstance. And what is that circumstance? An Eitzara, okay? When there is a time period where there is a very challenging, troubling time, there's a time of milchama, of war. So in that case, even midoraita, according to the Torah, you would have to daven. And there it says, in ba'alotcha, v'kitavo milchama be'artzachem, when you have a war, al hatzar hatzoreretchem, that you have this enemy who is oppressing you, sieging you, making things tight around you, then you should blow your shofar and you should remember Hashem. And he said that is the source, the biblical source to daven, but only in an Eitzara. Okay, so again, to review, the Rambam says there's a mitzvah d'oraita to daven every day. We get that from V'avarta Hashem Elokechem. The Ramban says no, there's no mitzvah d'oraita to daven every day. Midorabanan, yes, but according to the Torah, no. But the only time you have to daven, according to the Torah, is when you're in an Eitzara, in a time of trouble. Now Rav Soloveitchik comes and he says, what is the source of this machloket? What are they arguing about here? He says that in fact, they actually agree. Okay, he says the Rambam actually agrees with the Ramban. He also knows that V'avadat et Hashem Elokechem is not a real source in the Torah. It's an asmachta. It's a cute little hint in the Torah. But it's actually not the source for having to daven midoraita. He also agrees the only Torah obligation to daven is when? In an Eitzara. However, what does he say? He says that every single day we're actually in an Eitzara. And therefore, midoraita, we have to daven every day. The Ramban says, no, only during a war. The Rambam says, no, every day we're in Eitzara. Every day, according to the Torah, we have to daven. And Rav Soloveitchik says, in the reflections of the Rav, he says, Maimonides regarded daily life itself as being existentially in straits, tzara, inducing in the sensitive person feelings of despair, a brooding sense of life's meaninglessness, absurdity, lack of fulfillment. It is persistent tzara which exists b'chol yom, daily. Okay, the Rambam understands that in order to have a very real and meaningful tefillah, what do we have to do? We have to first stop and realize that we are in dire straits all the time. Right? There's only one person only one being we can turn to, and that is Hashem. And when we realize that, then our davening is on a different level. So, how is that connected to Tevet? What do we know about Asar b'Tevet? What happened in Asar b'Tevet? What? Yerushalayim is under siege, right? Nebuchadnezzar comes, he puts a siege around Yerushalayim, and for 3 years, the people of Yerushalayim are surrounded on all sides. No food could come in, no water could come in, they can't go out. They're surrounded by enemies. They're in an tzara, quite literally, right? They are in a matzor, they are in a siege, okay? Now, what should they have done during those 3 years? Davened, right? They were given a very clear warning. Something bad is going to happen. You are in an tzara. Now, according to all opinions, you are in an tzara. You need to daven midoraita to Hashem. This is what you need to do right now. It's a great opportunity for them. Do they do it? I'm sure they must have davened a little, I don't know. But obviously it wasn't successful, okay? Because 3 years later, they have the Choram Beit HaMikdash. And how could that be, right? How could it be that they know they're under siege, their enemies are surrounding them, and they're not davening properly? How does that happen? Wait, what did you say? Good, very good. Right now, we don't have to imagine that we're in an Eitzara because we're in an Eitzara. We've been in an Eitzara for a year and however many months, right? And yet, I don't know, I'll only talk about myself. Do I daven every day like I'm in an Eitzara? No. Right? Do I call out to Hashem? Like there's nowhere else that I can call out to. I need Hashem with all my being, and I'm going to call out to Him like I'm in an Eitzara, that I'm in a matzor, I'm in dire straits, I'm in this siege. No, I don't. And how is that possible? Because we're human, right? Because sometimes there's a blockage, and even though we know that we're in a very difficult situation, we're not able to daven properly, and sometimes we might feel, is it even worth anything? Right, but if we spent 20 minutes a day we're davening anyway, right? If we could daven during those 20 minutes, understanding the situation that we're in, then our tefillah would be in a different place. And we wouldn't be psychotic because we'd have the 20 minutes and we'd be giving it to a higher being, right? So, but we don't always do it. And sometimes I think we sometimes feel like, is there a point? This has been going on for so long. How are we going to solve anything with our tefillah? What's the point?
I think the fact that we live in Yerushalayim and it's so quiet here is a disadvantage, but an advantage. If we lived in Sderot, anywhere in Korea, I think we could dominate a lot more.
Good. What she said is that sometimes also we have a little bit of an illusion. We live in Yerushalayim. Bezrat Hashem, b'li ayin hara, most of the time things feel pretty calm. So even though we know things are not calm and we know other parts of the country are suffering, we ourselves don't always feel it all the time. So we're not able to always tap into that. Either way, we see that there is a concept of even when we're not in a war and we're not in a time of troubles, we should be trying to make ourselves feel that way in order to daven properly. And especially during these times, we need to try to take a step back and to think about that before we daven. And that's why we're gonna spend this morning hearing from different speakers who are going to talk about different aspects of tefillah, which if we could tap into a little bit of it, maybe we can work a little bit on our tefillah. And I just wanted to also say that in 2 days, now it's the 6th day of Hanukkah, and 2 days is Vizot Hanukkah. What's Vizot Hanukkah? So every day, there's a Torah reading. We read about the presence of the Nesiim. And at the end, the last aliyah that we read on the 8th day starts off Vizot Hanukkah, and it lists all of the sum total of all the offerings that all the Nesiim brought during the time period. So it says Vizot Chanukata Mizbeach. And it's kind of like, this is going to sum up, obviously there it's actually in numbers, but this is summing up what all of our Hanukkah is about. And according to Chassidut, what happens on the last day of Hanukkah? What did you say? Right. This is our last chance for judgment. We thought it already happened. There was Rosh Hashanah, there was Yom Kippur, there was Shmini Atzeret, there were so many different dates, right? We thought it ended already. But no, actually, the last day of Hanukkah is the final sealing of our judgment. And so again, when we say Vizot Hanukkah, this is the summing up of everything that we've done on Hanukkah and everything that we've done over the whole year. This is the conclusion of our judgment. And so once again, we're being given this hard stop. We have a deadline. It's the final end of our judgment. We're up against a hard stop. It's an 8 matzor, it's an 8 tzara. Let's daven, right? And so the goal of the seminar is really to take those two aspects. Number one, understanding what it means to be in an 8 tzara, in a siege, matzor, when we daven. And number two, understanding that we're in that situation not only on a national level because we're in a war, but also because we're getting to the end of our last day of our judgment. And to take advantage of this time and to really just focus for a morning on our tefillah. To really just think, how can we improve our tefillah? Unfortunately, we're not able to have the Hallel with us today. There's technical issues with the shul, and they didn't want to have both on the same day. You guys can come back tomorrow for Hallel. Today, I was lucky enough. Rav Shmuel Eliyahu does a Hallel on different chagim. And it's a beautiful, if you're ever able to do it, he does it always in different places, a lot of times by the Old City, but in other places also. And he decided that for Hanukkah, he's going to do it by the Armonot Chashmonaim, which is right next to Mitzvah Yericho, where I live. And he decided to do it today, and I said, that's so annoying, I'm going to miss it. But the problem is also, you have to drive through the mountains, up whatever. I was like, I can't do that, I have to leave, it's not going to happen. And then I woke up this morning to a message that said, it's raining, we're doing it at the yeshiva in Mitzvah Yericho. I still had 2 minutes to come. I didn't realize in time. So I stopped in for 2 minutes. But those 2 minutes of a whole tzibur, of people really davening for real, is enough to impact on a month of davenings, right? So sometimes you just need to be able to tap into something to just bring yourself through for your davening for the rest of the day, for the week, the month. And so I hope that today's all the different shiurim will help you find something to connect to in each person's talk to take with you, so that at least for the next